Many of us know that Abraham Lincoln was a strong leader, but behind the scenes there were many people and events that influenced him that made him the strong leader that we know today. In the book Team of Rivals, The Political Genius of Abraham Lincoln by Doris Kearns Goodwin explains the significance how Lincoln's rivals impacted his life as well as his presidency. It also highlights ways we can be a strong leader like Abraham Lincoln. Before Lincoln became president, he had some experience running for Senate. Although he lost twice, he never gave up. What made him stand out from the rest of his candidates is that he wanted a personal connection with the audience he was talking to. He didn't want to grab the votes for just one group of people, but everybody in that particular state. He placed himself in their shoes to see where they were coming from and how he was going to solve their problems. Lincoln's opponent underestimated him because they believed he was a nobody and did not think he would even make the ballot. They knew about him running for Senate, but were more focused on the ones who had more experience. Once he became president, Lincoln faced many challenges, but the hardest challenge he faced was when his son Willie died at the age of 11. This took a toll on Lincoln and his wife Mary, but his wife Mary was hit the hardest. Lincoln fell into the Great Depression, but knew he couldn't stay in the state for long because he had a country to run. These three men were Lincoln's opponents at the time of the election. Something unusual that Lincoln did that most people thought was interesting is that he made each of these men part of his cabinet. He made William H. Seward the Secretary of State and later became his lifelong friend. Salmon P. Chase became Secretary of Treasury, and Edward Bates became Attorney General. Lincoln believed each of these men brought strong skills to the table and trusted their knowledge and opinions when he needed them. A big takeaway that Goodwin wants us to learn from her book is how we can be strong leaders just like Abraham Lincoln. Some of the leaderships she touched on are as follows. Self-confidence. Abraham Lincoln loved to tell stories and jokes, especially about himself. He knew he wasn't the most attractive guy for presidency, but that didn't stop him. Throughout his presidency, we see his confidence grow in many different ways. Like I mentioned earlier, Lincoln elected his rivals to be part of his cabinet. This shows his confidence that he had in these men to help build a better country. He was not only confident in himself, but was also confident with these men he chose to stand by his side during his presidency. The next is challenge yourself. Most leaders like a committee that agree with everything they say, but Lincoln was the opposite. Once he appointed his rivals, he knew they would have difference of opinions and would challenge him. Lincoln used his cabinet to his full advantage. After Lincoln's inauguration, Lincoln faced one of his first challenges. Lincoln had to decide whether to resupply Fort Sumter in South Carolina during the Civil War. If they did resupply this fort, they would have to go through Confederate territory, which would cause a conflict. Instead of trying to decide by himself, Lincoln went to his cabinet members and listened to their opinions about the situation. Ultimately, he decided to go ahead and resupply Fort Sumter. The next is to stand up for what you believe in. Lincoln believed there should be an end to slavery. Before Lincoln was president, he was part of of the Illinois State Legislature. During this time, he encountered his first challenge of his belief. He staged a formal protest to proclaim how injustice and bad policy it was for slavery. Although he stood for his beliefs before his presidency, Lincoln would have to stand up again, but this time to the Republican Party. The Republican Party was greatly divided when it came to slavery. On one side, the party wanted to take military action to try and keep southern states part of the Union, while the other side wanted to create a compromise that would allow the 8 remaining states to keep their slaves, but expand the use of slavery into territories like Cuba and Mexico. Lincoln opposed this idea because he thought there should be no compromise to keep slavery around in the United States. Finally, being bold and decisive. Although Lincoln liked to talk to his cabinet members, he also liked to take things into his own hands. One of these times was when he brought forth the Emancipation Proclamation. This was a bold move because his cabinet was split on the idea. On one hand, some agreed the proclamation would be a good idea, while on the other hand, others were concerned about invading property rights and would make the Confederate Army fight harder. Lincoln brought his cabinet together and listened to their arguments and opinions, but ultimately decided to go forth with the Emancipation Proclamation because he thought it was the right time to end slavery. Abraham Lincoln, even after his death, is known for being a great leader. He took challenges that no other president before him took. He built relationships with everybody he met, believed all men were equal, but most importantly, he created a pathway towards a new country that we see today. Many strong leaders look at these lessons Abraham taught and continue to use skills in their everyday life. Lincoln set the pathway for strong leaders that would follow after him.